Innsbruck in Austria, a snowy Saturday morning in the Tyrol. We're just above the double Olympic city at Eagles, the sliding venue for race 5 at the BMW IBSF Skeleton and Bobsleigh World Cup. Welcome back to Innsbruck, everybody. Martin Haven alongside me, Nathan Crumpton, as we get ready for the second run to decide the medals for the 5th time this season. Nathan, fair to say that Innsbruck is living up to its billing as a very tight battle.
It is, absolutely. Only 0.04 of a second separate the top 3 sleds. Here we see Stephanie Schneider fighting for that bronze medal. She had an up and down seesaw first heat. Second fastest start, up to first on the splits, but then dropped down to third just at the very bottom of the track, just falling behind the USA sled and her teammate from Germany. Sitting in second place, we have Kaylee Humphreys and Sylvia Hoffman, just 1/100th of a second behind. Really tight racing. It's as tight as you get here in the sliding sports. She probably has a couple things that she can fix on that run and maybe bump up into the gold medal position. But in first place, we have Mariama Yamanka and Annika Dratsik, the dynamic duo, back together again. Fastest push in the first heat and fastest downtime. They had some sterling lines coming through. Wonderful lines here, seeing out of curve 9. These two were aerodynamite, and they have the lead.
Well, only one of our top 3 has ever won a World Cup race on this track, and it's not Mariama Yamanka, and amazingly, it's not Kaylee Humphreys either. It is Stephanie Schneider. She's won the last 2 races. 2 years ago, was the European champion here with Annie Dratsek. Last year, won with Ann Kristenstrack, who's breaking her here. If Dratsek and Yamanka win, it'll be Yamanka's first win. It'll be Dratsek's 3rd, with a 3rd different driver, if you include the World Championships in 2016, which Annie, just going out of shot there, won with Anja Schneider-Heinze. Schneidi is on our jury now in the IBSF Bobsleigh World Cup. So it's going to be an entertaining battle, and really the top 5 who are covered by 15 or 1600ths of a second, that's where the medals will come from. Everyone else is 100th or a couple of hundreds ahead or behind a close rival. Now, we have had one withdrawal from the second heat. Anne van Nieuwenhuis of Belgium and Sarah Ertz damaged sled as they crashed into the wall at the end of the outrun, so they are not going again. The French, who shot off onto the rubber matting, will go again, so we will see Margot Bosch and Carla Seneschal, but no Misha McNeil in the start today. She was due to race, but is sick with the flu, and there'll be no Anne van Nieuwenhuis. So we are 18 sleds deep, beg your pardon, 17 sleds deep. So Tania Vicenzino will get us underway, and the final sled on ice will be Mariama Yamanka, trying to defend the tiniest measurable lead other than an exact dead heat over Kaylee Humphreys. And it's not beyond the bounds of possibility, although it hasn't happened in 15 years, that we might hand out double medals, because ties are not hard to come across.
Not at all. It actually happened to me in a skeleton race earlier this year. Had a tie down to the 100th of a second, but there is the added factor here of the snowfall.
Race 5 of the BMW IBSF Women's Bobsleigh World Cup. Second heat in Innsbruck in Austria. Snowy morning as Tania Vicenzino and Silvia Tiny of Italy get our second heat underway. Martin Haven alongside me, Nathan Crumpton, watching the action.
And we saw a quick getaway there from the Italian sled. Oh no, more problems again. Just crashing right into that slider's left bullnose, exiting the start groove before curve 1. We saw something similar in the first heat. See how much time they can gain back from that, but that's just tough to see. And a little bit of a tap there before curve 4. Beautiful looking sled, as we noted before, the Pirelli sponsorship, the Ferrari red. Looking good. We'll see how the times end up for them.
Getting bumped away there. You will see the track getting swept, or you won't see it, but the track will be swept between sleds. So there's a sweeping protocol when there is snowfall, because snow slows the sled down where it's not covered. Vicenzino in only her 2nd ever World Cup race. Has got 1 year of sliding only under her belt.
Great experience for her, though, being on the World Cup stage. You've got all the TV cameras around, the pressure. It's good building momentum, getting comfortable. Crosses the finish line with a 55.79 second run.
And 55.34 in the first heat, so that clump on the wall definitely slowed them down. The snow won't have helped either. And Vicenzino still in very much in a formative part of her career. Go online and find a social media interview with her and her brakewoman after crashing in both heats in La Plania. They were talking about the sport and their passion for it.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Here we see that replay just coming out of the grooves and just going right into the slider's left wall, taking hits on the bunks, and then it skids. Basically skidding, fishtailing, Tokyo drifting, you might say, through curve 1.
Yeah, you can see all the snow. It is falling fat and wet, isn't it? So it is sticking to the ice. Now, a tiny bit of snow on the ice doesn't have too much effect, but once it starts to build up to kind of half an inch or an inch deep, then it's like hitting standing water in your car. You feel it slowing the sled down.
You do. It just makes driving that much trickier.
Melissa Lottholt's got our race underway today. Her 35th World Cup race, 34 of which she's not seen where she's going because she was a brakewoman. Her first ever World Cup race as a driver. With Janine McHugh, her second World Cup start as a brakewoman.
They're in a rental sled, the Vimmer sled, looking very slick, powering it off of the starting block. Nice little entry, drifting a little bit as well, and also taking a hit. I wonder if that may be a groove issue. I know with the new track crew, they had some issues with it last week, but we'll see what the following sleds do. At the moment, though, in the lead, green numbers on the screen. That means they are currently in first place and opening up a big gap, nearly a second, 8/10 of a second right now.
Well, right now, for Melissa Lottholtz and her teammate Cynthia Appett, it is all about experience, gaining that knowledge. They're racing two-man sleds, they're racing monobobs as well. 7 World Cup wins, 17 medals in her career, predominantly those wins coming with Kaylee Humphries. When Kaylee was sliding for Canada, Melissa was braking with her.
Here we see Lower Labyrinth opening up a big lead, over a second and a half. She should be happy with this run.
It's looking much tidier than her first run, which was kind of skiddy. 54.5, 3/10 of a second quicker. That's a big improvement, and that's despite that clatter into the start wall.
Indeed. And again, the clatter into the finish wall, too. That dangerous finish wall that curves around to the left and took a big hit there on the right side of the sled, but braked in time.
Well, don't be gentle, it's a rental.
Yeah, that's true. It is a rental sled. Use it for all it's worth.
Look at the low heel drive on Melissa Lottholtz. I mean, her start coach is going to be very happy with that.
Really digging into it. But then, yeah, just taking that angle right into that wall. Not as bad as the Italian sled. Just sneaking in.
You saw her eyes, though. She wasn't even looking at the wall. She knew that was coming. She was looking down into turn 1.
Yep, trying to salvage it in curve 1.
There's Graham Richardson, who heads up the Canadian program. And she's been coached in her driving by Todd Hayes. Next up for Australia, Bree Walker with Sarah Blizzard. Sarah making her World Cup debut here. She's had 3 races before today, and this is Bree's 3rd World Cup race. Made her debut here last year in Innsbruck. 0.02 of a second the advantage over Melissa Lottholtz.
Tight racing, as we noted before, only 0.02 of a second difference between the sleds. It's going to be a tight one at the finish line, if I had to guess, too. We'll see how the load is. No problems.
Yeah, gets a neat and tidy 5.82. She might have taken a step or 2 less than the Canadian girls, but she didn't hit the wall, so more of the speed stays in the sled.
Right, in the red, though, at the moment, so that means she's behind, and she'll have to work her way back into the lead with some smooth driving. Now open up to 1/10 of a second.
Shows that the Canadian sled did have good speed on board, despite that clatter on the wall, 1700s back.
Can she claw it back? This now exiting Kreisel, going to the bottom half of the track, opening up to 0.2 of a second. Oh, will she find it? Oh, that's not gonna help. Hitting a skid before going into 10.
Little wave in the middle of the Kreisel. She kind of lost her way a bit, I think.
Oh, it's growing. It's up to 0.3 of a second. I don't think she's going to be able to overhaul the lead here.
Yeah, Melissa Lottholtz with better speed at the bottom. There's Melissa on the right, Janine McHugh on the left. 54.90 slide for Bree Walker and Sarah Blizzard. Bree Walker from Melbourne and Sarah from ACT, the Australian Crown Territories, which is the tiny state in which the capital, Canberra, is found.
Yes, indeed. Here we see going into curve 9. Oh, just fishtailing a little bit. That scrubbed a little bit of speed. And here we see on the exit, relatively smooth off the exit. Here it is, corner 9 though. A little bit too high on the end, holding on a little bit too long to the corner. Comes across and just takes that little tap, and then the big skid. Wrestling with the sled, trying to get it straight.
Again, for the Aussies, it's about ice time. There's Heath Spence, former Australian driver. He's now helping the Korean development program. And Bree Walker. For Switzerland, Martina Fonteneve in 15th place after the first heat. Now, she has got a decent advantage. She was 2/10 ahead of our current leader, Melissa Lottholz, from the first heat. Nadia Pasternak there at the back, getting the sled into the start grooves as the timing clock goes for their 60-second start.
They are going to be looking to clean up the run a little bit. They had a solid start, 5:72 in the first heat, 10th fastest, but then dropped 5 spots over the course of the track. So we'll see how they powered off, and we'll see if she improves on her slide in this second and final run here.
20th ever World Cup race for Martina Fonteneve. She was 9th in the race here last year and 15th after heat 1.
And into the green with a few tenths of a second. That's going to help her cause. That big sweeping curve 3 doesn't seem to have a problem with it at all, though. Into this upper labyrinth, these alternating single pressure little left rights, setting herself up for the Kreisel, staying off those walls with a quarter-second advantage.
Started the same time as Melissa Lottholz, so she has that first heat advantage and just about hanging on to it.
Exiting off of corner 9, pretty clean too. Get some nice height there in corner 10, off of corner 10 and into the lower labyrinth with 0.3 of a second lead.
Yeah, here's the experience of a top 10 slider showing 3:10. She's growing the lead over Lottholz, 3,500s. So there's Melissa on the right and Janine on the left, and they leave the leader's box 54.35. So a quarter of a second improvement on their first run.
Indeed, she will be happy with that. It's always good to see a good second run. Just as a pilot, you're always happy to know that you improved and that you fixed some of your mistakes from the first time out.
Exactly right.
Here we see the replay coming off of curve 9, one of the trouble spots, but she has the best line that we've seen so far in this second heat. Not taking a big hit, keeping the runner straight and going into curve 10. Exit of curve 10, opposite of that big sweeping corner. Just managing to stay off the wall. And she's happy with it. Thumbs up.
She is happy with that. Well, there's Nadia Pasternak. Might have got a bit of a bump coming down in the finish tunnel, as often you do. 14th after the first of our 2 heats, Russia's Elena Osipenko. Well, the Russians aren't propping up the bottom of the timing sheets this weekend, so having a much better time than they did in La Plania. But that's because they will have raced here in Europa Cup when they were learning their trade, the 2 younger athletes, whereas La Plania was a little bit of an unknown quantity. Elena Osipenko, last year's Europa Cup champion, so she has good recent knowledge of this track. And the experienced brakewoman behind her, Anna Parfenova.
Getting off the blocks with a powerful start and loading in. Nice and smooth and straight into corner 1. That's what you want to see. Also, 5:77 for the start time. You can see the snow starting to accumulate, though. There's tracks going into curve 1 that might become a factor as it accumulates later. I know there's a sweeping protocol, and hopefully that will make it as fair of a race as possible. Yeah. Lead down to 0.06 of a second, though, into this upper labyrinth.
It is slender, isn't it? She had a 10th over Martina Fonteneve from the first heat. She started 300 slower, and she is just clinging on to what remains of her first round lead.
Opening it up to 0.09 of a second as she enters corner 9. Takes that light little tap, but keeps it straight, doesn't skid into corner 10.
She should hold that lead. Speed is as good as the Swiss sled, so it is going to be a few hundreds. Fastest sled at the bottom, Bree Walker, 1:16.4. She's away from that, but she does get a faster run. 200s added to her advantage over the Swiss on that run.
Found a little shortcut right there in that finish curve and holds on to the lead as a result.
Well, Wolfgang Stampfer was the exponent of that, just carving low in the final corner to take another metre or 2 out of the track. And it's always worth a 100th or 2. There's Elena Osipenko, her 3rd World Cup race.
Here we see going through the Kreisel. Feels like you're going around the world with that beautiful shot. Coming out, she had a clean exit. Here we see from the exit angle, sled just hanging on there and sneaking out with a nice clean entry into corner 8. Good run for her.
She was the Europa Cup champion last year. Only finished third and fourth here, though, in Innsbruck, so one medal out of the 2 races. Possibly not her favourite track here in Europe. We'll wait and see how well she fares later in the season. Little dab, and why not? Elena Osipenko leads from Martina Fontenev and Melissa Lottholz. We have 13 sleds to go. Race 5 of the BMW IBSF Women's Bobsleigh World Cup. It's snowing in Innsbruck in Austria for Margot Bosch and Carla Seneschal. Well, actually for everybody, but they're next up. Martin Haver and Nathan Crumpton watching this French duo in action. Rookies this season made their debut last week in their home track at La Plagne. Not a great synchronization of the hit at the start.
No, we'll see if they can overcome that. They do have a good entry, though, into corner 1. 5.79, and the start is so critical here in Eagles. We've said that before, and it's worth saying again. You have to have those fresh legs. You have to be able to power it off the blocks and then maintain as much of that momentum as possible.
Margot Bosch, just 20 years old, her second season of driving a bobsled. Dad was a bobsledder as well, so she's in the family trade, if you like.
Just falling back behind by 0.03 of a second, but it's still anyone's race at this point. With a clean lower half of the track, she could claw it back, opening up to 0.05 of a second. Beautiful corner 9, though. Straight shot, as straight as an arrow.
Her lines were really nice in the first heat, and that may well help her with speed. 500s in front of Elena Osipenko from the first heat. Will she find speed at the bottom? She's got more than the Russian, but not quite enough to catch. 54.46 slide, that drops her into second place ahead of Martina Fontenev. Martina, and the French again run right out of ice and onto the rubber.
Oh, they do. That's the end of the line, and they just go flying by it onto the rubber. And
they did that in the first heat as well, and that doesn't help the runners. The runners are polished to mirror perfection.
No, not at all. Expensive runners, and you hate to see that happen. Here it is, a replay of the start, though. You see all the snow falling down as well. That doesn't help with the start times. Hinders the velocity just a little bit, but she does get that good entry. Here it is in Kreisel, high line above the blue luge lines that we see drawn onto the Kreisel walls there. Good lines, but just not quite the speed she was looking for.
Well, in her second year, very much a development prospect. I think she's got a lot of talent. She knows how to get the lines out of the sled.
She does.
Lubov Chernik and Yulia Shokshweva were 12th after the first heat, second of our Russian sleds. Shokshweva, the veteran, 25 World Cups for the 31-year-olds. Lubov Chernik, though, relative newcomer, started last year in World Cup racing at Sigulda. Sigulda, Russia's second home track. She was 4th on her debut. She has not managed to get that close to the top 3 since then.
Certainly that Sigulda track, before the Sochi track was built, that was where many of the Russians trained. It was sort of their home track.
For generations, it was built by the USSR back in the 70s as their training ground. So Lubov Chernik very much at home there, and that will be our final World Cup stop before we go to the World Championships as well. So that will really boost her confidence for the Worlds.
Yes, indeed. As she opens up a nice lead, almost 0.2 of a second into the green. Oh, takes a little bit of a tap going into the Kreisel, going round that big sweeping Kreisel corner, clean exit. Coming out, this little combination, the CLU caster coming out onto the straightaway between 9 and 10. Big height there in 10, almost clipping that roof.
Again, nice looking line. She's got good speed as well. She's going to stay ahead of her teammate Elena Osipenko by... Oh, she doesn't! Wow, so
of a second.
Osipenko there on the left. And her brake woman, Anna Parfenova, lead. They were the third of 3 Russian sleds in Heat 1. They will be no worse than the second Russian sled in Heat 2. As Lubov Chernik drops 200s behind.
That's the thing, it's always the race within the race. Teammates, here we see it, that little tap, that's certainly where 200ths of a second could have gone. The tap going into Kreisel, and here it is, getting so close to that roof in corner 10, the big corner 10. Oh.
And then she steered it down and then realized she was coming down too early, held the steer. She could actually have left the height a little bit longer.
Possibly
and then really dived out. But again, you know, second year in World Cup, only her 4th year in a bobsled, so all of this experience is going in to the data banks. And you hope to make the mistake only once and learn from it each time out.
Yes, indeed.
So, with Anne van Nieuwenhuis of Belgium sled damaged in the end of the first run, we're now down to our final 10 sleds. And what a debut for Cynthia Appia. Like her teammate Melissa Lotholtz, very successful brakewoman. And she now starting her driving career last year in two-man sleds and in monobob. Now her first World Cup start.
And she had the 5th fastest start in that first heat, so she knows how to power it off the blocks, has a good rapport with the brake woman there. 5:62, another powerful start. It's the fastest start that we've seen so far. Her challenge is to carry all of that speed down the track. She had dropped 5 spots in the first heat. We'll see if perhaps she can improve on that. She has the potential, and she's got a big lead right now.
Yeah, 4600s ahead of Elena Osipenko. What she will be looking to do is to try and move up the top 10. Empirically, if you said, I guarantee you'll finish 10th in your first ever World Cup race, she'll go, yeah, that's good. But once you're in 10th, you want to move up.
Absolutely. She came out a little bit early from Kreisel there, took a little tap. Maintained a pretty straight line there from 9 to 10, exiting 10. Just flirts with the wall as she enters the lower labyrinth, but still has almost a quarter second in the bank.
Nice looking run from Cynthia Appia. First ever World Cup race, and 900s in the lead, 54.43, and that will mean she is guaranteed a top 10 finish on her World Cup debut as a driver.
Congratulations to Cynthia for that. She's got to be happy, I know, and she's got so much potential with that powerful start there.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to come from her.
20 World Cup races as a brakewoman, 1 now as a driver. 1 medals this season in the North America's Cup. And her last race here was the World Championships in 2016.
As she thanks everybody back at home for her World Cup race here in Eagles.
In fact, she raced twice in the World Championships here in 2016 with Kaylee in the women's race and with Kaylee in the 4-man race.
Just watching that lower labyrinth, just fishtailing a tiny bit on and off some of the corners. But she is all smiles.
Works for the Toronto Blue Jays during the summer and represents beautifully during the winter for them as well. So 9 to go, and this is China's Wai Mingming.
What impressed me most about the Chinese teams, both Chinese bobsled teams in that first heat, is they both improved on their start times, and they drove themselves into the competition. They had the 11th fastest start time and drove themselves up to 9th place. And I think that's a testament to the good teachers and the mentors that the Chinese team have hired.
And you can see that the sled techs for the Chinese team are shouting at those the track workers who are doing the sweeping.
There we see that sled, the sweeping protocol taking into effect, blowing out those grooves.
Yeah, but the sled should have started by now. There's a distinct time between the sleds.
There is.
Which the jury is supposed to enforce, but the track workers all knew this year this might be their first snowy race. So Wai Mingming, her 4th ever World Cup start, her first outside of North America. 21-year-old brakeman. Brakewoman Wai. That wasn't a great start either, 571.
571,
didn't really coordinate the hit.
No, slight improvement by a few hundredths of a second. We'll see if she can do what she did in the first heat, though, which is to drive her way into position.
Yeah.
10th of a second back here in this upper labyrinth. Big, strong crossovers, getting a little bit hung up there on the end, but staying off the walls as she enters Kreisel, 700th of a second back.
She was only 200s ahead of Cynthia Appia in the first heat and started 700 slower, so that gap immediately wiped out. 300s.
Yeah, a little bit of a skid, but she goes into the green. Cynthia had a few of the problems down lower on the track, so we'll see if that's where the Chinese sled can make up some time. And they are into the lead by 500ths of a second.
And they've got good speed on board as well. And across the line, 54.32. So applause from Cynthia Appia and from their coach, Pierre Luders. And that doesn't come easy. Pierre Luders is a hard man to impress, but he's been impressed with the way that these Chinese sliders have been learning fast.
They have indeed.
So Wai will be guaranteed at least a 9th place finish.
Here it is, that setup corner, corner 6. Sets you up into Kreisel. You want to have a good line there. You see the runner just dropping a little bit right off the end of that fillet, the little bit of ice at the end, coming out of Kreisel there. Taking a little bit of a knock on that slider's right side before she enters into curve. 8 there.
That is a personal best for Wai Ming Ming. She had 2 11th places in Lake Placid. That was her previous World Cup best, now guaranteed at least 9th position. So good for her, good progress being shown by all the Chinese teams here. Next up, Katie Beil of Austria, and Katie finished in 6th place in last year's race here in Innsbruck with Jennifer Onosanya behind her. They're 8th after the first of our 2 heats, and 6th place is a whole 600ths of a second away, so very tight battle here. 1500ths in hand over Wai Ming Ming from the first run.
They're hoping for some of that home track knowledge, get some of the home crowd behind them here as she starts in a 5.71. That puts her 1400ths of a second in the lead.
Yep.
Hopefully gives her enough of a cushion that she'll be able to slide her way into the top spot.
Same starting time as the Chinese, so the first run advantage remains intact, and she's just growing that a little bit. Very skiddy in the first run, 2 or 3 big slides from the rear runners, so she'll be aware that, that's an issue, but...
Yep. Still holding on to that lead, growing out to about 0.2 of a second as she enters this lower half of the track. Almost 1/4 of a second now.
She's aiming to move up, isn't she? She wants to be better than last year's 6th position, not down in 8th where she is now.
Absolutely. Valuable points there every spot you move up, and a good line through that lower labyrinth, opening up 0.3 of a second.
And across the line, 54.12. That's a very good run. 54.15 in the first heat. So good consistency from Katie Beil and Jennifer Onosanya. Katie Beil, the reigning junior world champion in women's bobsleigh.
So she sandwiches herself in between the Chinese sleds for the moment. But that was a great run, and she may yet move up a spot. Here it is, exiting corner 9. That has been tricky, causing a lot of problems for sliders this week. She manages it really well, though. Just takes a very light skim over the crest and then into corner 10. Shot nice high line there. One of the higher lines that we've seen. Dive bombs out. Tries to stay off that left wall. Again, just a very light touch, not scrubbing too much speed or momentum.
So big smile in the helmet for Katie Beil. Jennifer Onosanya with the back to us as they lead the sled back down to the finish area. With 7 sleds to go, the Austrian is our race leader here on her home track in Innsbruck. Katie Beil from Wai Ming Ming and Cynthia Appia. That's the top 3 with 7 remaining. China's national champion. She won the title last week in Winterberg. Yingqing of China lying in 7th place, 400ths ahead of Austria's Katie Beil after the first of our 2 races here in Innsbruck.
5.67 starts, a solid start for this Chinese team, the leading Chinese team, getting themselves ready for the upcoming Beijing Olympics, holding on to green numbers at the moment as well. But it's down to 200ths of a second. This could be very close as she navigates her way through this upper half of the track.
Well, top speed at the bottom, below the Kreisel, is held by her teammate Wai Ming Ming, so this sled should also be quick. She might yet drive herself back into the lead.
She might. She took that really high line through the grid in Kreisel. Comes out beautiful straightaway, though. Straight as an arrow. That should help her as she comes into the lower labyrinth here. 500ths of a second. This could be really tight. She needs to find a shortcut.
Like teammate Y, this is only her 4th World Cup, 300s back, 54.19. Well, disappointing perhaps to lose a spot, but good job, says Pierre Luders. And again, some really nice corner exits.
Yes, indeed. Shows a lot of potential with the Chinese team. And if you're going to lose out to someone, it's acceptable if it's the hometown hero.
Yeah. Best place up until now in the World Cup was 8th in her debut in Calgary at the end of last year before the World Champs. She has now improved on that.
There we see that high line coming through Kreisel above the blue luge lines. And then the exit of corner 9. This is one of the best ones we've seen yet. Sets those runners, has the D-rings going straight into corner 10. Beautiful line through there.
fact, she hasn't improved on that. Second with 6 to go. She will be no worse than 8th, but this is a track that she's got very much less knowledge of than the North American tracks, so she'll be very happy with that. Katy Bar leads from Jingying of China and Wai Ming Ming in 3rd place. We have 6 sleds to go. As Andre Langer deals with the Chinese sleds in the snow at the bottom. And Russia's Nadezhda Sergeyeva and Elena Mamedova get ready to battle to hang on to this top 6 spot. Sergeyeva, the best of the 3 Russian drivers in the first heat. Her 40th World Cup start as a driver after 4 World Cup races as a brakewoman. And her teammate Elena, this is only the 5th World Cup start for the 25-year-old Russian brakewoman. There's Katy Bar, the leader, on the left, Jennifer Onosanya on the right. Loving a bit of home crowd support. Friends and family will be here.
All smiles. It's always great to be in the leader's box and move up a few spots.
Yes, it is. So they've already overhauled Yingqing of China. And now hoping to get the scalp of Nadezhda Sergeyeva. Sergeyeva with only 0.06 of a second advantage over the Austrians from the first heat. The battle for 6th was very tight indeed.
A very slender lead. And with the snow coming down and a very short track, anything can happen here.
Should start quicker. They had 5.66 in the first heat. If she gets in cleanly, whoa!
Just tapping it on that right side. 5.61 though, still a great start, speed start time. Oh, is it gonna be enough though?
46.7 top exit velocity so far in this heat. So 1400s is the gap over Katy Bar of Austria.
With a clean run, it should grow. We'll see as she enters the Kreisel here. It's still holding 1400s, also a high line above the blue luge lines. Nice exit, great driving on that exit of Kreisel there and into 9.
Using all the tricks, not just steering, but also leaning, using body weight just to nudge the sled a fraction.
It's anything you can do to get the line. 1100ths of a second. Oh,
little wild.
Little wild there, yep.
Big speed, can she hang on to it? She's quicker than anybody else. She does, just by 800ths of a second. So top 6 finish guaranteed. Oh, brakes, 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 brakes. Her teammates you saw leaping off the wall there as she came flying through the station and again has to grab the rail to stop running out of ice.
Oh, that is tough to watch. That's nerve-wracking. Just watching that sled just fly up that outrun and you hope it doesn't fly off the end too. Oh man. Dive bombing out of curve 10, the big curve 10, getting hung up a little bit, taking a little tap on the slider's left side. That's what maybe took away a few hundredths of a second. And then a rough on-take there in the lower labyrinth, going into curve 13, and then into the Zeal curve, the finish curve here in Eagles.
So there's Nadezhda, helmet off, and looks okay. 54.09 first heat, 54.10 second heat. That's consistency. Well, her best here was 5th last year. Nadezhda, the leader from Katy Bar and Jingying of China, with 5 still to go. Race 5, BMW IBSF Women's Bobsleigh World Cup. Final 5 sleds covered by 1600ths of a second. Christine de Bruyn with Kristen Buznovsky looking for a 3rd medal this season.
She's been having a great season so far. Really hoping the momentum continues. 1/4 of a second in the bank off of the 2nd fastest start. That's going to help her. She's got a lot of experience driving down these icy tracks. Beautiful line out of 2, very smooth into curve 3. Gets off of that exit there with 0.3 of a second in the banks. Looking good so far for Christine.
Well, ahead of her, the 4th place sled was just 200ths away. The 3rd place sled, though, was 1200ths away. Is a medal achievable for the Canadian?
She's driving really well so far. She's putting herself in a good position. Nice smooth lines. Very gentle brush, if at all, in that little straightaway before curve 10. Comes out of curve 10, nice and clean as well. opening it up to almost half a second. This is a great run for Christine. She should be very happy with this.
Yeah, really nice looking run. This is a real shot for the medals. 53.76 would have left her 400s out of bronze in the first heat. I think she's going to be very happy with that. You heard Cynthia and Melissa and the girls down there yelling and screaming. That was a good run for Christine de Bruin.
That was an excellent run, just saving everything for the finale, and just, oh, she's got to be thrilled.
De Bruin. I know in Canada it's De Bruin, but here in Europe, Ivo says it's De Bruin, and my Dutch director is just saying De Bruin as well, so we'll go with De Bruin. Great load from Kristen and Christine, and a great drive from Christine. That is a solid shot for a third medal of the season. So she took bronze in race 2 in Lake Placid, silver last week in La Plagne, France. She's driving up a storm this year.
Here it is, that exit of curve 9. Barely stays off the wall, just, oh, that is beautiful. That's about as good as it gets.
Squares her up beautifully for turn 10 entrance.
Yeah, no hit, no lost momentum. Great run from Christine.
Some happy Canucks down the bottom there.
Yes, indeed.
4 to go. 200s ahead of Christine de Bruin of the Netherlands. Laura Nolte, last week's winner, with Elina Nolte, her brakewoman. Elina and Laura not related at all.
Coming off of that win in La Plagne, we've got 3 German sleds left. It's right into that meat of the discourse here as we go into corner 2 here. Great start, as they had last week. They had set the start record in La Plagne. Coming out of curve 3 here into this upper labyrinth with nearly 0.2 of a second in the bank. Takes a little bit of a tap though, uncharacteristic. So we'll see if that hinders her at all as she enters into the Kreisel here.
Third World Cup race for Laura Nolte, the Youth Olympic champion 2016. Youth Olympic Games in Samoritz, starting bobsleigh tomorrow.
Beautiful line out of curve 9. Hung it up a little on the end, but she managed to steer it dead straight into 10.
Great exits. 1200s is the lead. It's come right down. Has she got enough speed? Christine de Bruin, 119.0. 700s at the line. Well, she found 500s of that in this second run. Is that enough to vault her into the medals? She was a 10th out. She's had 2 races, a bronze and a gold in her World Cup career. Will this be a 3rd medal winning run?
We will find out shortly. It is a tight pack at the top. Here it is, that little brush on the driver's right side in the upper labyrinth. And then this is the exit of Kreisel now. Coming out smoothly. That's a beautiful exit. Stays off the wall. A little bit of a skid though. That may have been where she lost some of that time. Coming into curve 9 here. Getting really high up in the center of curve 9. Then that little blip on the end, but she holds it straight.
So there's Laura on the right, Elina on the left. Elina now with 15 World Cup starts under her belt. Laura with 3.
Okay, go.
3 to go. Time to decide the medals here in snowy Innsbruck in Austria. We have Germany's Stephanie Schneider, the winner last year. We have the USA's Kaylee Humphries, never a winner on this track. And Germany's Mariama Yamanka, ditto, never a winner in World Cup racing on this track. So Stephanie Schneider, you think, with the top 3 covered by 400s, might have a slender advantage, despite the fact that she's given time away. Nathan Crumpton, there were a couple of little errors in her run that to the naked eye we saw, so there are things that she can improve, but I'm sure the other drivers feel there are mistakes they made that they can improve on as well.
Exactly. I know Kaylee had a few brushes with the ball that she's looking to improve, and that's the thing, is that sometimes those mistakes, they can add up and they can really affect you, and other times you just got to let the sled run.
So there is Laura Nolte on the right, Elina Nolte on the left. Laura loves pink and chocolate, she says. You can tell. And not that she's eating chocolate, but there you go. Even her sled truck, her big van, is all pink. So 3 to go. Stephanie Schneider and Anne Kristenstrack, last year's winners here in Innsbruck. Can they do it again from third place? The gap is 400ths to gold. It's all but a dead heat in the snow.
And the snow is really coming down now, but they've got a great start, fastest start so far, 5:53. That's going to give them valuable momentum as they head down this track and they fight for a medal.
And really only the start area is the most uncovered part. After that, you're either under a roof or in a corner.
Most of this upper labyrinth, though, does have a lot of exposed areas, as we see falling down before the entry into Kreisel.
So sometimes it's not even a rub on the wall, it's if you get into standing snow, a huge skid, and that's gold gone, surely.
Oh, that's not going to help her at all. Out really early, very close to that wall.
And that might drop her out of the medals. She was a 10th over Lara Nolter, and this is not a clean run. A 10th back, 1:14. Lara Nolter had 1:18 at the bottom. Lara Nolter is in the medals, and Schneider might be out. 53.98 run. Huge skid.
Wow.
You don't have to know anything about bobsleigh to see on that run where the time went.
Going sideways is not the fast way to get down in a bobsled. Oh, that's so tough to watch. You have the medals in sight, and then you come out of Kreisel and you just have that pressure attached to the sled. It just holds you on that line that just kinks you out. Here we're gonna see the replay. Takes that high line. We've seen that high line a lot. That's been very common here through the Kreisel, but then she comes out, exiting the corner. See, does she get hung up a little bit? Oh, she may have actually brushed that left wall, and there we see the big skid. It's just putting on the brakes as she enters 8. That's
filling the track. I mean, the back of the sled on one wall, the nose on the other. Silence in the tunnel. No repeat of last year's win for Ann Kristen's track and her driver, Stephanie Schneider. So Lara Nolter and Alina Nolter lead with 2 to go. And that means Lara Nolter is now going to be 3 for 3. 3 World Cup races. Her 3rd medal is already in the pocket. What she doesn't know yet is what colour it will be. 2 to go. Kaylee Humphries and Mariama Yamanka, neither of whom have ever won on this track in World Cup racing.
No, we could see a brand new World Cup winner here in Innsbruck. Very smooth entry into the sled for Kaylee with a start time of 5:60, 3rd fastest. That gives her an 800th of a second advantage. And she's been going back and forth between her BMW sled and then this BTC-made sled. She's taking that technologic angle and trying to see which produces the best results for her.
Again, feel and instinct so important on such a short track, and that's what she's got with the BTC. The BMW is still new to her, doesn't drive the same.
Exactly, as she just falls behind by 500ths of a second. That could be the start velocity, it could be the snow. She's going to need some perfect lines down here at the bottom if she wants to claw it back. Still holding 500ths of a second. Takes that little tap again.
Little slower than Lara Nolter's FES sled. The FES makes great numbers at the bottom.
Yes, it does.
She needs 119 from the BTC. This is still going to be very close to the line. Kaylee Humphries or Lara Nolter. It's Nolter with the lead. She'll take at least a silver. Could she take her 2nd race win in a week?
Just 300ths of a second. Faster than the blink of an eye. That is the difference that it made. As we saw, we know there was going to be some tight racing.
Oh man.
She knows it too. She knows it too.
Well, she's already had 2 career wins in 5 starts for the USA, Kaylee Humphries.
She still has a great season going on, and she can't be too disappointed with that. But there's just, it's all these little things that could add up. Could be the snow. Here we see the one time she makes contact with the wall, and it's not that bad. It's just a very light brush, redirects the sled, doesn't skid. Gets cleanly into 10, but you know what? When it's 300ths of a second, that could be the difference maker.
Yeah. Or just the amount of snow that's in at the start for you, or anything like that. But it's her first European medal as a US slider, guaranteed to be at least silver, at least bronze. Could it be silver? So the woman who will decide is Mariama Yamanka, our world champion last year in Whistler, our Olympic champion the year before in Pyeongchang. And the Olympics were her first major international race win. Since then, she is just about unstoppable, with Annika Dradzek behind her. Dradzek, a winner in the World Championships in 2016 with Anja Schneider-Heinze. 2 years ago in the Europeans with Stephanie Schneider. Can she make it 3 different drivers with gold?
And they have the fastest start of the competition. You saw that great shot of Annika, just laser focused at the start. Her nickname is the Beast because of how fast she pushes a sled. She gets it off the line, gives it great velocity, and they've opened up a big lead of nearly a quarter of a second in this final heat. coming into the Kreisel. We see a lot of snow on the track. Shaved off a couple of hundredths of a second, but had a very clean exit.
2/10 clear in a top 3 that was covered by 400s in the first heat. She's got good speed as well. 97.5, quicker than Kaylee Humphries, quicker than Lara Nolter. 2/10. It's going to be the first gold medal on Innsbruck, or in Innsbruck, for Mariama Yamanka. She wins her first race of the season. 53.66 slides. She takes gold, and Lara Nolter takes a silver medal. In 3 races, Lara has now got a win, a silver and a bronze, and Kaylee Humphries, her first European medal as an American slider. And for Annie Dratek, 3 wins on this track with 3 different drivers.
Maybe she's the good luck charm, but they had it all. They had the great push, they had the great drive.
Yes.
That is the winning combination.
And for Mariama Yamanka, that is only her 2nd medal of the season, her first win since the World Championship is in Whistler. Has she still got it? Yes, I think she has. There's the smile. And that was a big run as well. Huge start, 5:51. They outstarted everybody else, and a big second heat. 53.68 in the first heat, 53.66 in the second heat. Yamanka did not notice that it was snowy on the track.
Didn't seem to affect her at all. She was laser focused on the run. Put together a beautiful run with a great push from Annie. That was the winning recipe, and they take the gold medal today.
So the last 3 races here then have been won by German sliders. This year, Mariama Yamanka, the previous 2 by Stephanie Schneider. And this time Schneider out of the medals in 5th ahead of Nadezhda Sergeva. Christina Brun in 4th, 400s out of the medals. Former teammate Kaylee Humphries just ahead of her in bronze. Lara Nolter, the silver, Mariama Yamanka, the gold. Humphries, first US medal in Europe for her, so fantastic for her. And look at Cynthia Appia, top 10 result on her debut as a driver. That's a really good run for her. And her teammate Melissa Lottholz also making her World Cup driving debut. She finishes in 15th spot. We can't see much of the Tyrol today because the snow clouds are down low around us. Ski station just down the road from us tells us that the foot of the track is 1,009 meters above sea level. So we're not in the rarefied atmosphere of La Plana last week. But Nathan, this is a track that a lot of young sliders know. Some of the young sliders here, though, still have very limited recent experience. I'm thinking particularly the 2 Chinese crews in this women's race really drove superbly to finish 8th and 9th.
Absolutely. They gained speed all the way down the track. Good sled setup, good mentoring. They hired some of the top Germans in the world, so they have that ability to learn from them, and they were able to work their way down the track in a great fashion. I think sky's the limit for them.
Yeah, for Ying in 8th place, that equals her career best in World Cup, and that was actually on her debut in Calgary, a track that she knows considerably better than this. There's Lara Nolter in the pink hat, and Elena. There are our Canadians. Ooh, bit of flossing from Christina Brun.
Good move.
Yeah, Butch isn't going. No, I'm not going there. I'm not going there. Excellent stuff. So just 200s out of the medals, or 400s out of the medals. Again, a good run. And there's Annika Dratek and Mariama Yamanka with Andrei, our Russian friend.
Always great to walk away with a win. Yeah. It's a great feeling, just that feeling of relief that you get. You cross the finish line, your coach is there, holds up the #1. Yeah. Wonderful feeling.
6th place for Russia's Nadezhda Sergeva, 1 spot lower than last year, and 7th for Katy Bile, again 1 spot lower than last year. But we've added Kaylee Humphries back into the pack. She wasn't sliding last year, so she is making the difference there. And there's our local umpire band. Lots of colour, lots of noise from those guys here. Race 5 of the BMW IBSF Women's Bobsleigh World Cup in Eagles, won by Mariami Amanka, who continues to be in third place in the World Cup standings, but closes in on Stephanie Schneider. And our World Cup leader is still Kaylee Humphries, who finished in the bronze medal position here. Laura Nolte, from a standing start, 3 races into her World Cup career, is already in the top 10, ahead of Yingqing of China. And Nathan Crumpton, it was an impressive performance from Mariami Amanka and Annie Jacek, the 2 fastest runs down the track.
Fastest push starts and the fastest runs, that's what you want to see. Some great driving, those great FBS sleds, really getting a lot of speed. But really, as you say, it's between the ears. It's the psychology of the driver in Mariama. She's been in these positions before, and she nailed it.
Identical starts, 5:51 in both heats, and near identical runs, 53.68 and 53.66. Kaylee Humphries there, our bronze medalist with Sylvia Hoffman. Silver medals on the left for Elina Nolte, and in the pink hat, her driver Laura. And our race winners, Mariami Amanka and Annika Jacek, Annie's 3rd win here in Innsbruck with a 3rd different driver. Amanka's 1st win in Austria at World Cup level. So congratulations to all 3 crews. My thanks again to you for joining us, to Nathan Crumpton for words of wisdom, and to the IBSF TV crew as ever for the pictures. We'll be back this afternoon with the 2-man race, 1400 local, 1300 Greenwich Mean Time. And Nathan joins us for tomorrow's 4-man race. Until then, from Innsbruck in Austria, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye for now.